Hi! I've had a lot of people asking about the bath bombs that I've been making. My friend Lily and I, who's not here right now, have been doing a lot of trial and errors to find the best recipe to get them as close as the Lush bombs that you can buy for like $7 at the store. And after many a trial, we have finally come up with what we think is a pretty good recipe. But I wanted to walk you step by step through how I do them, so maybe you can use them for a make and take party or for gifts of your own. The first thing that I do is we make embeds that are encased within the bath bomb. So first, this is the bath bomb sizes that I've been using. They're pretty large in the scope of my hand. And inside these are a bunch of little kind of mini bath bombs. There's also some in this size. I made these sizes for my son's Christmas gifts for his classroom. And so encased are the embeds, and also to make a fun surprise for kids, we went ahead and ordered some of these little capsules, and when you put them in water, they fold out into this fun little sponge. And so I put one of those in the middle of every single one of these. So the kids get a fun surprise when they use their bath bomb, along with all the different colors that they'll find with the embeds. So to get started with the embeds, you're going to need a couple ingredients, not very many. You need baking soda, citric acid, some witch hazel or 99% isopropyl alcohol, and then vegetable glycerin. And if you'd like to color them, you'll need some sort of mica powdered. There's various ones online. These are the ones we happen to find. These have a little bit of a shimmer to them, but again, you can get whatever kind you want. I do recommend doing powdered and not liquid. The liquid, I find you can use it in some cases, but it tends to create more of a reaction, whereas the powder allows it to stay dry, and you get a better mixture that way. So we are going to start off. I'm going to take these out so I can pick my embed colors, and I'm doing all of my son's party ones yellow, so I'm going to make the embed some other colors, so probably purple and like a reddish pink and maybe an orange. My green's all gone, and I'll save my yellow. So what you're going to start off with doing is you're going to take a container, and I use a strainer because you want the powder to not be have little balls in there. You know, baking soda can get that. So I'm going to put that over there, and I'm going to double the recipe and do a half a cup each because I'm making a bunch of bath bombs. So in this case, you're going to do a 1-to-1 ratio of baking soda and citric acid. So I'm going to do a half a cup of baking soda. And I'm going to pour it in there. And then I'm going to make sure that it all goes in. See how there's little spots in there? So I like to just make sure that they get taken care of. And then I'm going to do a half a cup of citric acid. This is what creates, these two things together when they get wet, is what creates the fizziness in the bath bombs. Oops, I'm making a little bit of a mess. I'm not Martha Stewart, so pour that in there. And again, I use, my fingers just to get it all to go down. And then you're done with that. And I'm just going to clean up a little bit because clean as you go. So next you're going to do is you're going to mix this up with your hands. You can use a fork. I like to be more hands-on so I can get a better feel. So I just take a glove. And I just mix this all together really well. And then if you're wanting to make different colored embeds, so you'll notice I actually have one that's kind of broken, it got dropped. So this is a white bath bomb, and we had an orange, a blue, and a green embeds in here. And so we had different ones, so and we had that little fun foam. This one broke. So if you want to make different colored embeds, you just need to separate this into different bowls. So I'm going to make just probably 2 colors today. So I'm just going to try to mix it about half and half. And since I know I use a half cup of each, then a half and a half equals whole, so I have a half a cup of each mixture in here, if that makes sense. Next, I'm going to add my colors. I'm just going to do one at a time. So I'm going to start with the bright kind of pink red. And you can really add as much as you want. Depends on how dark you want it to be. Obviously, the more color you add, the darker it'll be. But you also don't want to add so much that you throw off the balance of your liquid versus your dry ingredients. Otherwise, you won't get the moisture that we're looking for it to hold. So I'm adding about that much because you can always add more later. And then what I do is, you'll see it here, and then I just mix it with my fingers. And it's very dry right now. And once we start adding the liquid, I will tell you, you might be familiar with this if you have kids. You're looking for consistency when you add the liquid, similar to like kinetic sand. So this is a pretty nice pink color that I've got going. Maybe I'll add a little bit more, make it a little darker. And I do these embeds about 2 days before I start the big bath bomb because these need to be fully dried in order for them to sit in the other ones really well. So just in my little piece of advice is I always make these beforehand. So now it's time to add our wet ingredients. So it's about 1/8 of a teaspoon of vegetable glycerin and a witch hazel. I add those, but then I kind of free pour because you'll start to notice if it doesn't hold together well enough, you're gonna wanna add more vegetable glycerin. So I'm just gonna show you by adding, this is about 1/8. I'm just gonna pour it in, and I always add the witch hazel last because you will see that by adding that witch hazel, which is a property kind of alcohol, it's going to react to the citric acid and the baking soda and start fizzing. And you want to minimize that as much as possible. So in here, I'm just pushing them together, seeing how we are. I think I'm gonna need a little more vegetable glycerin. Again, I'm just from doing this a couple times. You'll start to get the hang of it once you've done it once or twice. You'll know it's ready when you're able to pull it like this and it holds its shape. This one doesn't at all, but I haven't added my witch hazel, which is kind of our wettest ingredient. So I'm gonna add that next. Now again, watch, you're gonna see it fizz right away, so you're gonna wanna act quickly to minimize the fizzing. So I'm gonna kind of put it over here in the corner, drop it, you see how it's fizzing right there? I quickly get into action. Just start moving my fingers around, whoops, see? And you can make a mess because, you know, why not? You'll see it's kind of getting a darker color too, and we're starting to get more of that kind of kinetic sand feel, where it holds its shape but not 100%. So see how when I hold it, it works perfect. You don't want it much wetter than that, otherwise it's just not gonna fizz the way you want it to in the bath bomb. So now it's time to put them onto your drying sheet. I use a baking pan with some parchment paper, and you can do whatever size embeds you want. It just depends on the size of bath bombs you're using. So with the larger bath bombs, I tend to use bigger embeds, and with the smaller ones, I'll do smaller. So I just take whatever size little measuring spoon I want, and you're just gonna fill it up like this. You're going to punch it down, and then you're just gonna tap it lightly and see how it comes off like that, and that's what you want. Now I will warn you, when these are drying, you wanna keep them somewhere that's rather dry, because they will react. Now, that being said, you don't want them to react too much. My husband thought it'd be a fun idea to experiment with our last set of embeds, and he put them in the oven thinking that he could dry them out quicker, and they ended up getting destroyed. Yeah, did not work. So,
but you still love him.
I do still love him. So I just recommend putting them somewhere where they're not gonna get, you know, I have cats and a dog and kids, so I don't want them to get ruined by them, but I also want them to be somewhere safe to dry. So anywhere where you have a safe spot where it's not too moist, because the moisture is just gonna create the fizziness, and you wanna wait and use that in the bath. So I'm gonna make all these embeds, and I will make the next color as well. We don't need to sit here and watch this. But tomorrow, hopefully these will be dry. I do recommend drying them overnight at least, but if you can, 2 days is really better. And then the next video we'll pick up is where I'll be making the larger bath bombs, and I'll show you a couple of key ingredients that I've used in order to help it to fizz for longer, and how we use the embeds inside of those. And then we'll do a little demonstration, and you guys can kind of see what we've realized, and we're pretty happy with the results. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer them. We've been trialing these for about a month now until we finally got a recipe that worked for us. So thank you.